Всем привет, это Ильин Сергей, он же Сиреней из Гатчины. Этот VR-experience называется On the morning you wake to the end of the world. Утром, когда ты проснулся к концу света. Experience для гарнитуры виртуальной реальности Oculus Quest буду проходить, точнее смотреть на Oculus Pro. Английская аудиодорожка, субтитры английские. Тут есть 3 главы. Укрытие, машина судного дня и Кулиана. Что бы это ни значило. Так, наверное, нужно навести указку на первую главу и нажать на курок.
On the morning you wake to the end of the world, take your body back to the kai, to the place our kupuna taught us life began. First pole, then coral, then slime, then a whole universe fitting into a space smaller than a grain of sand. Then air rising through the ocean, pulling the tides that make mountains, valleys, and the rivers that cut through them. Remember our Aina, for all the ways she had fed us. In the quiet darkness before the blast, dive yourself back into the depth of creation, recalling all the times your world has ended before.
Сложно на лету переводить синхронно.
In Hawaii we have this saying, it says, "Ikawa mamua, ikawa mahope," which means the time in front of you and the time behind you. But kawa mamua, the time in front of you, also means the past. And the time behind you, kawa mahope, means the time that comes after, or the future. And so one of the things that's kind of written into our understanding of time and space is that we always back into the future, facing the past.
Нравилось сравнение, то, что всегда мы находимся спиной к будущему и лицом к прошлому. Это Гавайи, 18-й год.
We have so many beautiful sunrises here, but the sunrise was so unusual and so exceptional that Bruce said, I've got to go get the good camera and photograph it.
Красивый
and so
закат.
There was that kind of recording of the sunrise on that day that was noticed by so many people. It was beautiful, but it was flaming and it was ominous all at the same time.
I was born and raised in Hawaii. This has been my home for my entire life. I was excited to go into work Saturday. I was just finished getting ready and my phone alarm went off and I'm thinking, oh, it's gonna be like a flood alert. We get those a lot. But I looked down at it and I froze. Like I looked at it and I could not believe what I was looking at.
Женщина живет на Гавайях и собиралась на работу. Пришло сообщение. Я думала, что это очередное наводнение, но это было что-то другое, что-то невозможное. Прокрался страх, как такое может быть возможно. Это не тренировка, ракета направляется к Гавайям. Старайтесь найти убежище.
There was this impulse, first to be with loved ones. If people were with their kids, it was, where do we go to protect them? How do we protect them? Our girls are 7 miles away, and Bruce said, I don't know if this is real or not, but I need to be with them. What I should absolutely know, that if this was real and there was a ballistic missile coming to us, that I would probably never see him again.
С чего это вдруг ракета в них летит? Такое было? Видимо, это не просто история. Видимо, это по реальным событиям, которые имели место.
My sister first woke me up while I was having my beauty sleep, and then they told us that they just got a text that there would be a missile attack and that we would have to hide very safely so we don't get hurt.
Сейчас ребенок рассказывает, что им сказали безопасное место.
So many people panicked. People were shoving their children, and this still haunts me, down storm drains against their will. You know, how do you explain it to a child that has no idea what this is, but that it doesn't make any rational sense that we would live in a world where we would
Объяснить
have to do
ребенку,
this?
что такое может происходить.
Hawaii is still home for me, even though I'm a long way away. My family is there. My friends that I grew up with are there. They are my people. That day I was reading in the library at Princeton, where I study nuclear weapon issues. I remember seeing my phone out of the corner of my eye start lighting up with message after message. Did you all get the missile alarm? I have no clue what we're supposed to do. Sirens were heard in Manoa, but nowhere else. There's nothing on the news or the radio. Should we drive to somewhere with a base? My dad is going to Kualoa Ranch to help people into the bunkers. I'm freaking out. I don't have Jada with me. I'll have to drive to her. Tamara, how much time do we have? What can we do? My friends wanted answers. They wanted a way out. And I knew I didn't have one to give them. If this alert was real, people on the ground had 15 minutes or less.
Если тревога была бы реальной, у людей 15 минут есть на все про все.
Much of Honolulu would be flattened by the initial blast wave.
Ядерная летит еще, оказывается. Я думал, просто ракета.
Our home would become toxic and sick. Suddenly, I stopped thinking about nuclear weapons in terms of technology or security. I thought of them in terms of my family, my home.
I remember looking at my dad, and he was just sitting there, and he said, "We're 5 miles from Pearl Harbor. There's nothing we can do." For it to suddenly come at, like 8 o'clock in the morning, "Hey, what have you done with your life? And are you happy with that? Are you ready to just go right now? Are you good with that?" I quietly texted my best friend saying, "I love you. I'm really proud of you, and I know you're gonna do really good things with your life."
As soon as I got onto our 2-lane highway, there was growing chaos all around me. People driving at high speed, some speeding already at about 90 to 100 miles an hour. I was already at 80 or 90 miles an hour. Cars driving across the median strip, people jumping out of their cars, running into stores, laying down in the aisles.
Если ядерная, то прячься, не прячься.
We were all in our pajamas and we just were running, and I started sobbing because I didn't want to die. I remember Jacqueline, she was really tired from all of the running. She got on my dad's back.
We ran to a building that is quite substantial, like somebody believed that there was some kind of a shelter in that building. As we got to the building, there was a huge surge of several hundred people, and they were screaming at us, "There's no room here, there's no room here, find somewhere else." We just stood outside, horrified, terrified, thinking, you know, the people inside might make it and we're not going to make it. I remember looking up and everything seemed completely normal.
Пытаются найти убежище, но так переполненные, никуда не попасть.
Grandfather always used to tell us about war and how it was scary and how it changed him. And then he used to always talk about Pearl Harbor and how what he heard were just loud airplanes and they were flying over the mountains towards Pearl Harbor.
Вспоминают.
And he said he saw one plane just went straight down into one of the boats. So he saw everything.
Японцы начали бомбить.
Let's keep in mind that Hawaii specifically is a nerve center for command and control operations in the Pacific. Enormous numbers of nuclear weapons are commanded from Hawaii and would be a target if there were a major attack for that very reason.
None of the political leadership had done anything to prepare for this kind of reality or to create a different reality, to create an alternative. They said to take cover. What a ridiculous thing to say to people in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Take cover? Well, let's just go paddle out into the ocean because there's literally nothing I can do in this moment.
Так, это была, видимо, первая глава, и чтобы проникнуть во вторую, нужно опять взять контроллер и щелкнуть.
On the morning you wake to the end of the world. Chant all the names of our dead and dying. Refuse to forget Koho'olave, Makua, Kohakuloa, Mokoli'i, and then look to the horizon. Call upon the memory of hundreds of tests carried across our oceanic backs. Bikini and Aneotak, Kirimati and Kalama, Meraringa and Imu, Maruloa and Whangaraufa, and all the unnamed caught choking downwind. E Peli Hauofa's beautiful sea of islands vision perverted into a sea of toxic waste. The enduring gift from our American, British, and French protectorates.
January 13, 2018, 8:08 and 0 seconds a.m.
911, please, fire ambulance.
Police, I guess.
Emergency, non-emergency.
And I just got an alert on my phone saying there was a ballistic missile inbound.
Yeah, we just got it too. It's happening to us right now too.
So what are we supposed to do?
You know what, let me get you to dispatch. 911, please, fire ambulance. Hello?
There's stating that there's a missile coming to Hawaii?
Yeah, you know what, we just got like on our personal phones too, and we're trying to look on the news. As much as you know, that's how much we know. Like, we're still trying to figure out what this whole message is about. I'm so sorry, sir. All lines are busy. Yeah, right now we're getting inundated with calls asking, and we don't have the answer right now because we just got it.
We called emergency services and they didn't have any advice for us. Nobody was tweeting from government officials. There weren't any emergency news alerts. There was just nothing. It was radio silence. And then we were on our own. So I'm looking through social media. All I'm seeing are my friends and family freaking out, tweeting things like, "Is this real? Is this real? What do I do?"
Кто не может понять, что делать, звонят в полицию, пожарную службу, но никто не знает, никто не в курсе, произошло все спонтанно. Правда ли это даже, или какая-то глобальная...
In Hiroshima, they have the shadows of people burned into ground and walls from how hot and intense the blast was. And I kept thinking, like, what is my shadow going to look like? What is my silhouette going to look like?
Well, I was 12 years old. On that day, 1945, I was on the way to school that morning. Everybody in school died and nobody survived.
Рассказывает японка, которой было 20 лет в 45-м.
I'm attending elementary school. I'm not here to talk to you. When we see the flash and the big noise, our train stopped. We all jump off. We saw that mushroom shape of a cloud. We don't know what's going on. So we start walking toward the Hiroshima city. The people start coming. I thought we were going into hell because those
гриб своими глазами выжила, жила до таких лет.
Skin, arms and face, all the just peeling off, and you cannot even tell man or woman. That's the image that I can never forget. That happened 1945. We have no warning. Bang, it happened. But this one, 2018, I live in Oahu and I was sleeping. I wake up because of the noise. They said, go hide somewhere safe. And I think, what do you mean? I cannot hide in no place safe. If it's coming, it's too late. So I decide I don't want to experience things I did when I was a kid. So I don't want to be a survivor anyway.
Hiroshima was destroyed with a single bomb, which has defined the nuclear age for most people. But when you see a picture of the devastation, you are looking at what happens to a city when it experiences the explosion of a detonator of a modern thermonuclear weapon.
Modern nuclear weapons have a destructive force tens to hundreds of times more powerful than those dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. If one were detonated over a metropolis like New York, Tokyo, Paris, or London, over 15 square miles would be flattened by the initial blast. Almost 50 square miles would be consumed by fire. About 1 million people would die instantly.
Если сейчас произойдет в мегаполисе ядерный взрыв, мгновенно
The
погибнет как
scientists
минимум
who designed nuclear
миллион.
weapons said it best. That in all-out nuclear war, the living would envy the dead. Yet there are still more than 14,000 nuclear weapons in the world.
Сейчас
This is
более
enough to
14
destroy our entire planet many,
ядерных
many
ракет.
times over. Doesn't matter who fires first or which
Важно,
nations
кто
are involved.
первым ударит, какая
The nature
нация
of military
будет
alliances
вовлечена.
and the fact that nuclear weapons are distributed widely around the world, even in countries outside the 9 nuclear states, means that any nuclear launch has the potential to set off a chain reaction of counterstrikes and retaliations that destroys all life in this world.
It might start with a single missile aimed at incapacitating our
То есть
communication
достаточно с одной
But
ракеты
the
начать, и
overall
пойдет
attack on
цепная
each
реакция, которая
It would be
не
what
может
are
быть
called a doomsday
остановлена.
machine, killing everybody not right away, but within months, depending on the food supplies nearby, or a year or so for the entire world. That hasn't affected our plan. The weapons continue to be built. In effect, we're ignoring it in the same way we've failed to prepare for the possibility of a pandemic.
The idea that possessing nuclear weapons somehow protects a state or a population does not hold water. They put everyone at risk. Possessing nuclear weapons is a violent act. They are used every single day, regardless of whether or not they're actually detonated.
We kind of thought that we were too powerful to take down, or that it would never happen in our generation. We're too smart to use ballistic missiles like that anymore. And that's like a really Western privileged way of thinking about it, I think. I call it millennial hubris.
When I arrived, my older daughter came out, who's 13. She said she was told to sit down and prepare to die. I looked in her eyes, and she was looking to me for comfort. She was looking for me to say it's going to be okay.
There's no way to give a satisfactory explanation to your child as to why we live in a world that has nuclear weapons.
I was pregnant at the time, and I didn't tell a lot of people because it was still very early. Having, this life inside of me that so helpless I couldn't do anything to protect. It was just heartbreaking. Even if we live through this, what am I bringing this baby into? Like who's to say there's not another threat?
I didn't call my daughter in Los Angeles until the last moment. But that's when I think this became most real for me. This is the child that I carried for 9+ months, that I suckled at my breast, that I gave everything I could to. When she picks up, I say, but I just want you to know that I love you, I love you. And she says, I love you too, Mom. And then there's just silence. What if it escalated, or if it was happening in other places, if we weren't the only people getting this ballistic missile alert? If this was the beginning of a civilization ending event,
Это не
a collective
учение.
death experience for all of
И вот
humanity.
неверно здесь. Вот так легко, выпустив всего лишь одну ракету, можно запустить цепную реакцию. И это приложение On the Morning You Wake от Мета, которая признана экстремистской. А мы, русские, радостно размахиваем этой ядерной дубинкой, позорно нажимаем во время концерта на красную кнопку, и все в таком духе. И кто тут экстремист? Глава 3.
On the morning you wake to the end of the world, call out the names of all the violences that have come while calling itself protection. All the ways we have been left to gather the shattered pieces, 2 island cities in the western corner of the Pacific, flattened to caricature, names rendered meaningless, carved over and over again into the blinding of our textbooks. Just enough of their shape remains to call foul at our hubris, but does nothing to slow the arrogant push of progress, all because the men with the plans called power promised us security behind the barrel of a gun, but none of it will save us the violence that will continue to come. Bullets only beget more bullets, bombs only beget bigger bombs, and in the end, all we are left with is this waste, waiting.
So we're just like scanning the horizon. So we're looking for something to crash on the ocean. It was such a powerful moment for us. It was almost as if it might have been the last moment of us being a family together.
My son was scared and they kept saying, are we gonna die? Are we gonna die? I think my daughter was crying. And my son's like, can we pray, Mommy? I never forget that because we don't pray. We never pray. And we just sat there and we literally waited.
I was crying and everybody was holding each other. We started to pray a little bit. Me just sobbing because I couldn't believe that I was about to die. And that's when I just noticed on my phone there was an alert. There was a notification from my best friend. The missile alert is false. It's a false alarm. Don't worry, everything is okay. You're safe.
Как такое случилось, что ложное?
What I felt in that moment was gratitude. Just gratitude.
В такой момент я ощутила благодарность.
Everything was still the same, you know, and yet nothing was the same. It would never be the same.
It was pandemonium in paradise after that alert was sent to phones throughout the state and broadcast on television. Members of Congress are demanding answers on why it took 38 minutes for a correction.
Those responsible for this happening need to be held accountable and making sure that this it cannot happen again.
The FCC chairman called the false alert absolutely unacceptable and has launched an investigation.
The people of Hawaii are justifiably livid. They demand answers, and so do we.
То есть в течение 49 минут было непонятно, летит ракета или нет.
Now fired from his job as a Hawaii state warning officer, the man responsible for sending the state into 38 minutes of chaos is speaking out, facing death threats with requested anonymity.
I was 100% sure that it was the right decision.
Это чел, который отправил сообщение ложное. Говорит, что был уверен.
I'm really not to blame in this. It was a system failure. Can't say that I would do anything differently.
Что это не человеческий фактор, что это системная ошибка.
Is all about blame. You know, why are we so hell-bent on blaming someone who made a mistake and trying to fix it with some kind of redundancy that isn't going to make any kind of difference if there's a nuclear attack. Yes, of course, there was a mistake made, but that's the point. We have weapons of mass destruction, and we've made so many mistakes, and we've been so lucky. How have we survived every close call for all these decades?
It was a false alarm, and we had a nuclear wake-up call, and we all had the gift of our lives returned. And so we now have to act. We have to make sure that this never happens.
We can either wait for what almost happened in Hawaii to be a reality, or we can prevent it from ever happening anywhere in the world. There have been so many people affected by nuclear weapons in many different forms, and their voices are excluded from the elite debates about nuclear weapons by allowing and amplifying the voices of women, the voices of LGBTQ groups, communities of color, indigenous communities. We can start to see an alternative view. We don't have to accept the status quo.
The first step in creating something new is having the courage to imagine that we could live a different way. We really need to come away from this individualism into understanding what it means to be a part of a community. The best place you learn about how to be in community with other people and with your land and with your resources is from Indigenous people, because they still know all those stories. It's not that the individual doesn't exist, but the individual is never at the front. That anywhere I walk, I'm not alone. Even if it's just my body standing there, right? I'm never alone. I have my ancestors, I have my community with me and beside me, both celebrating me and pushing me and holding me accountable. And we have a word in Hawaii, it's kuleana, and it means responsibility, but it also means privilege. It also means authority. It's the closest thing we have to the word right. If we can cure apathy, if we can cure hopelessness, if we can cure individualism, honestly, there's no reason in my mind that I think that we couldn't live in a world that wasn't overrun by this like military industrial complex.
Это слово «кулиана» на Гавайях означает ответственность.
As a partisan issue, as an issue of security and of strategic stability. But this moment in Hawaii can remind us that it goes far beyond that. It's not about enemies or allies. It's about acknowledging our common humanity. We have the tools to lift the nuclear shadow. We just need to use them.
On the morning you wake to the end of the world, remember, all of this violence is not enough to force our forgetting. Our water, our moana, has a memory, and we are made in her image together, meaning we are intimately connected and infinitely powerful. So who but ourselves to hold us accountable, when none of what has been built will save us from what cannot be called back? Remember, this mo'olelo, the air of change is heat. The air of life only rises from aina and kai. There is no part of you that is meant to survive when the cost is this place. On the morning you wake to the end of the world, your vision will be 2020, so use it. As the men with the plans called power call out from behind their screens to tell you to take cover, See beyond the violence of their contradiction, the enduring waste of their direction. Call upon your own mana to make a change. Choose to remember our Ainu, this Kai, these Kwahivi, and all they have witnessed, even more they have endured, and still stand to protect us. Follow their wisdom. Come Armageddon or high water, hold them close. Pull a pule from your na'au. Call out to your akua by name. And commit to live your life in their image, no matter what the consequence. And maybe, just maybe, the world may not have to end again tomorrow.
Я думаю, что это финал 3 главы. Присоединяйтесь к движению. Пошли титры. Но я считаю, что это правильная, важная короткометражка, VR-experience, продвигающая правильные мысли о том, что нужно уходить от этого. Демилитаризация, разоружение, а не наоборот, как это происходит в моей стране. Размахивание дубинкой, угрозы, террор. Все остальные экстремисты, а мы не экстремисты. Хотя, в общем, грустно это все. Такое было прохождение. Это был Ильин Сергей, он же Сиреней из Гатчины. Ставьте лайки, подписывайтесь, смотрите другие мои видео. Всем пока.